But it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, you bet. So before we get into your life as an energy healer and a speaker and a writer, I want to know 4 years ago, this pandemic was really kind of unfolding. No one knew how long it was going to last. Everywhere in the world had a different response. So, how did you survive that time period and how did it change you?
Oh, well, I was a I was a teacher and a school principal at the time.
Okay.
And so yeah, we hunkered down into our houses. And for me, it was interesting because I felt like even though we had to work online, I was an online distance learning teacher. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of a natural fit. And I felt like I had a lot more time at home. So I don't know how it didn't affect me as much. But when my husband got sick with cancer, then it was a huge, well, it was a huge problem
Yeah.
because being immunocompromised, no one can come at, we were so afraid of him picking up COVID, and he did in the end. And yeah, he died shortly after. So it, yeah, it had its perks, but there were some really devastating things that happened around here as far as like people not being able to see their loved ones that were on the edge of leaving this planet. And that's sad. It's
Yeah.
really sad. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the resounding sentiment from everybody is that they did have a time to slow down. There was a lot of things that were good. Obviously, the biological ravaging was bad, and all of those things were terrible. So, it almost seems like a dream. All of it kind of blended together, and yeah. So hopefully, we're moving on into a better realm. So let me ask you this: at the end of the day, if you were in front of a bunch of third graders and one of the kids curiously said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child today?
Well, I help people who are struggling with their emotions, who are not really understanding why they feel the way they feel.
So I would imagine you had a pretty big uptick in your clientele based on living through what we went through.
Yeah, I did. And it's increasing even more now. I think because people are becoming more aware of mental health, and they're becoming more aware of the whole that grief is something that we can't suppress, right? And so I'm glad that people are coming to that realization and that there is help out there. It's a good
So
thing.
the one thing I think that COVID did too was, I'm an IT person in a school district, and that absence of kids coming in, that reliability of having school was, and I know it created a strain on all the educational systems. Was that one of the reasons why you kind of got out of being a principal and got into something different?
No, well, actually, I ended up retiring
Okay.
when my husband got sick. And so um, when I retired, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what to turn to. Your whole life gets really uprooted when you lose your loved one like that. It just completely, and we moved in the process too to get closer to a hospital and all of that. And so yeah, you just kind of lose everything and you have to start over. And so I started looking towards energy healing because that was something that I was interested in early on in my life. And so I started to pursue it more. And then that that got me doing these summits on grief. That got me interviewing people, experts in that field. And it just took off from there.
So take me back to your childhood. How did you get these seeds of wanting to get an education and eventually get into energy healing? How did all of this kind of evolve into who you are today?
Yeah, well, I think as a kid, um, I had a lot of passion for education because I think of the teachers that I had. I remember my first grade teacher. She had the most beautiful handwriting, and I just wanted to have the same handwriting, right? You look up to them. And then I had teachers that were not so great too. And I think I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be able to influence people in a positive way. And then through that, I didn't realize it then, but I do realize it now that I had a lot of connectivity to, my inner realm, my inner being. And um, when I got into my teenage years, I was more kind of seeking that out. Like, what is this sixth sense thing? That was the big thing when I was in high school. What is the sixth sense? I want to know what that is.
Yeah.
And so and then when I had my children, when I had my first son, he was sick, and so I ended up going to an energy healer, kind of out of desperation because we couldn't figure out what to do with him. And she healed him, and so there was that, and that really catapulted me into being really interested in the healing arts and what I could do for people to help. So I don't know if those things two things mesh together, but I think they do in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
they do
Yeah.
for sure. So, what was the first time that you had a breakthrough moment with a client or with somebody with energy healing where you were like, this makes sense. This is something I can do?
Well, I think maybe the first one that I really still um, kind of look back to when I start to wonder what a difference I'm making is when I was working with my sister-in-law. She had a sore shoulder, and I didn't really tell her. We were just sitting and visiting, and she knows that I do the energy healing thing. And she was talking about her sore shoulder, and I thought, well, I'll just, while we're sitting here, I'll just run the energy and see if I can make a difference with that. Never talked to her about it. She went home, and then it was a day or two later. I had already come back to Saskatchewan. This is out in Vancouver Island. My mom had gone to visit her, and she said, if I didn't know better, I would say that Angela must have worked on my shoulder because I can move it now. So my mom messaged me and said, hey. So that felt like proof to me
Yeah.
that there is something in my abilities to help people with that kind of pain and the emotional pain as well.
So, who's been a hero for you? Who's been an inspiration in your work in your life?
Um, well, I've had several healers that have really inspired me to continue with my work. Um, and some that I've worked with for years now, especially since my husband passed away. And also, and maybe I'll just mention, like Adrian Blackwell is one that kind of got me into all of the energy healing modalities and helped me catapult myself into this place of interviewing people because she was the one that encouraged me to do the summits. And then um, Kath, Kathlena Haley has been working with me a lot, just to help me with frequencies, DNA. And also I'm working now with a mentor named Kevin Hughes, who is a channeler, and he's teaching me to channel. And so those have been big influences for me, and continue to be. And also my husband. He
Yeah.
is, even though he's gone, he is always here beside me, and he's always letting me know that, we're doing this together, that I'm not alone. So,
Yeah. So, if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find inspirational or fascinating, who would that be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
oh, I would love to meet Colette Baron Reed.
Okay.
I really would. She just has such an interesting background. She through addictions. She does these angel card readings, and when I do angel card readings, I always think about her. In the way that she does that, and just her approach to life, and the way that she makes everything so practical and
Yeah.
useful to people. I really like her. And who else? Um, I would love to meet Taylor Swift.
There you go. Okay.
necessarily a Taylor Swift music fan, but I just think that she is living her joy.
Yeah.
That is what she's doing. She's living her joy and she's just spreading that all around the world. I think
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You might have a chance if you come to Kansas City and see a game. She goes to all of them, so there's a good
Yes.
chance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Um, that's a good question. It's the best advice I've ever gotten. Probably to just, not take life so seriously all the time. Because I am a very, well, I think because of my education background and, we're very, linear oriented, traditional sometimes in the way that we approach things. And we forget that life is supposed to be fun, supposed
Yeah,
to be joyful.
yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this. How do you find the balance between, because I'm sure helping people and doing energy work takes a lot out of you. How do you find that balance between helping the client and then also evolving as a human and helping just giving yourself what you need? How does that balance work for you?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out that balance. I mean, I love helping people, and yet I know that if I spend too much time on one thing, everything gets out of balance. And so here's a good example. The last couple of years, because I lost my husband, I've felt like pulling in. And so I've spent a lot of time in my home working with others on Zoom and helping them and doing all these podcasts and summits and all that kind of thing. And I haven't got out socially to meet people face to face. And in a new community, it's really hard. And for an introvert, it's even harder. And so I've spent the last few months now just kind of ramping that up a little bit and getting out and starting to meet new people. And I'm finding that I'm busier and busier because that's taking more of my time. And so, how do I balance this? And I'm still working on it. But I think, I know intuitively when I think I'm more aware now when things are getting too much and it's starting to get overwhelming, and I'm more discerning about what I can take on and what I have to leave behind. And I think it's just a practice. I don't know if we ever get to the place where we're perfect at it, but it's something we really got to be aware of.
Yeah, for sure. So what's been one of your best client success stories so far?
Well, I would say the most exciting part of what I do is I have a support group, and we meet every 10 days, and we've been meeting for a year and a half now. And I would say at any, one meeting, there's probably about a dozen of us. And I don't know how big the group is. I know how big the email list, it's over 200, but these people have walked this journey with me for this past year and a half. And I have watched such transformation in their, just in them stepping into life and re-engaging with it. And yes, I've worked with some of these people one-on-one, but I've also just had them in the group. And each of them has such amazing stories, amazing backgrounds that they share with the rest. And then they all support each other. So
Yeah,
it's not like me walking into this group and saying, okay, well, I have this information, I'm going to share it with you. It's like me opening up the Zoom space and us just having a meeting, and these beautiful resources coming forward and advice and support that just comes out of that. It's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So of all of the things that you've done in your life and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
I think I'm the proudest of my family.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, my kids, they're amazing kids, and I don't know what I would do without them and my grandkids.
yeah,
And I've had good raising myself from my parents. My parents, raised me very well, and I feel like my husband and I did a really good job with our kids. They've turned out to be amazing. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into a 18-year-old version of you. You can give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, the wisdom you've gained over the time. What advice would you give that young version?
Oh, I would tell her not to hold back. You
Yeah.
know, it's just it, there are so many belief systems that you gather over the time, and so many things that set fear into your mind, and I would like her to just let that go and just be her.
Yeah. So we get off this call here, time machine pulls up. You can go anywhere in history, in human history, and see one event, or you can go into the future and see what it looks like. Where are you going to go?
Ooh, I'm going to the future.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I want to see what this new earth is all about that we're going to create. I
Yeah.
want to see it. Yeah. Mhm.
So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, who do I think I am? I would like to think I am a person that is very compassionate, very giving, and as is learning more about being compassionate and giving to herself. Because it seems like we want to be that person that we've all told we should be, and yet when we look inside, we often aren't that person to ourselves. We talk harshly to ourselves, and so I'm trying to be more kind to myself so that I can be kind to others.
So if anyone wants to listen to Awaken Your Soul's Journey, hire you, any of the good work you've done, reach out, how can they do that?
The best way is to go to my website, which is healingenergy.world. Everything is there. All the writing, the podcasts, the sign-ups for the group support, one-on-one, angel readings, healings. It's all there. Yeah.
Excellent. Wonderful. Angela, thank you for your time. Thank you for your story and keep doing the great work. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you. Take